The galaxy was a vast place, teeming with life in forms unimaginable to even the most advanced species. Every world, every race, had its own way of doing things, some peaceful, others violent, and many indifferent to the struggles of others. The Galactic Council, made up of representatives from the most powerful civilizations, ruled over this chaotic expanse with an iron grip, enforcing peace where they could and crushing dissent when they couldn't. But there was one species that had recently joined the council, one that was so different, so unpredictable, that even the most experienced diplomats found them baffling: humans. It was their turn to host the annual Intergalactic Summit, a grand event where species from all corners of the galaxy gathered to discuss trade, treaties, and the preservation of peace. The council, ever cautious, had sent their best ambassadors and strategists to observe the proceedings. The venue was a massive floating palace on the edge of the sector, designed to impress. Extravagant halls filled with luxurious decorations, alien flora, and complex holographic displays stretched as far as the eye could see. The atmosphere was tense as representatives from hundreds of species exchanged pleasantries in their own alien tongues, their conversations measured and diplomatic. Then, the humans arrived. They didn't wear the elaborate robes of the Aristarch, the amphibious species known for their intricate fashion. They didn't have the elegant grace of the Zyda, a race of winged beings that hovered with ease. No, the humans were dressed in their customary attire: simple suits, some in formal dress shirts, others in casual jackets. They walked with purpose, their faces determined but not afraid. To an outsider, they seemed almost out of place, too normal. The council members exchanged nervous glances. Could these humans, so new to galactic politics, truly handle the intricacies of diplomacy? The answer came faster than anyone expected. The first session of the summit began with the usual formalities: long speeches about peace, unity, and mutual respect. But then, the humans rose to speak. Ambassador Samuel Wells, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair and a look of quiet confidence, stepped up to the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen of the council," he began, his voice steady but loud enough to carry across the room, "we are here because we believe in something very simple: results. The idea that diplomacy is about talking and talking until everyone agrees is fine in theory. But the truth is, real diplomacy is about action. Words alone don't build bridges, people do." A ripple of unease spread across the hall. The other ambassadors shifted in their seats, some exchanging whispers. The speech had begun differently than expected, but it wasn't anything too shocking. What came next was, Wells continued, "I propose that we do away with all the formalities for a moment. No more sitting through speeches that last for hours. No more endless roundtables. Let's be honest with each other. The galaxy is full of problems, some political, some cultural, some economic. We've all been trying to resolve them the same way for centuries. And it hasn't worked, has it?" The room was silent. "Let's make a deal. Humanity brings its approach to the table direct, no nonsense, and practical. And in return, you all bring your best solutions, not just ideas. No more empty promises. Either we find real, workable solutions, or we walk away from this table and go back to doing things our way." A gasp swept through the room, a human saying they might walk away from the peace talks. This wasn't how things were done, at all. Ambassador Tavon, a towering being from the Rakaya species, known for its intimidating appearance and diplomatic savvy, stood up, his voice low but full of authority. "Are you suggesting that the unity of the galaxy is secondary to your direct approach, human?" Wells smiled, his expression calm and unyielding. "No, what I'm saying is that we need to find common ground in a way that benefits everyone. If we keep pretending that complex diplomacy is about endless discussions and not about solving real issues, then we're wasting time. We have problems that need fixing right now, not later. If you can't handle that, well, I can guarantee you that humans will still be here, dealing with our problems our way. But we won't wait forever." The room fell into silence once more. The Rakai ambassador seemed to consider the words carefully, and then, to the surprise of everyone, he sat her day down, nodding slightly. "I will admit," Tavon said, his voice softer now, "that I respect your candor, human, and perhaps it is time we tried a different method." A few other ambassadors stood up in agreement. Acknowledging the human ambassador's challenge, the debate that followed was unlike any the Council had ever seen. It was heated, but it was practical. Each species debated, not from a place of pretense or arrogance, but with a focus on the practical issues at hand: resources, trade, security, and how best to help each other thrive. By the end of the summit, a groundbreaking series of agreements had been rescheduled, actionable plans for the next 10 years that would affect every corner of the galaxy. No one had expected it, but everyone had felt the impact. As the event concluded, many of the galactic leaders could be heard muttering to each other, some amazed by the sudden shift in the Council's approach. Others, like the Xyla ambassador, were already sketching out plans for how to apply humanity's direct style of diplomacy in their own worlds. As Wells left the stage, a quiet chuckle escaped his lips. He'd always believed in one simple rule: actions speak louder than words. Diplomacy didn't have to be long-winded and convoluted. Sometimes, it just took a little courage, honesty, and the willingness to walk away if things weren't moving forward. And with that, humanity had changed the course of galactic diplomacy forever. The aftermath of the summit was nothing short of revolutionary. Humanity's bold approach, their willingness to cut through the usual red tape, left an indelible mark on the Galactic Council. The representatives from various species began to reconsider their methods, seeing that progress could be achieved without endless formalities. While the established races remained cautious after all, the ways of their civilizations had been centuries in the making. They couldn't deny that humanity's pragmatism had achieved something they hadn't thought possible. As weeks passed, the ripple effect of Wells' speech spread far beyond the summit halls. A series of discussions and debates took place across the galaxy, with each faction revisiting its approach to diplomacy, trade, and conflict resolution. Humanity's way of doing things, direct, transparent, and results-oriented, gained traction, while some old guard factions remained skeptical. A growing number of species, including the Tralexians, an empire known for its cold, analytical decision-making, began to mirror human tactics in their negotiations. Human diplomats, rather than adopting the role of passive observers in galactic politics, began to shape the tons of treaties, help mediate conflicts, and propose bold new solutions to old, intractable problems. Ambassador Wells became a symbol of this new era of galactic diplomacy. His name became known across star systems as a man who didn't just speak for humanity, but who spoke for practicality and change. Even the most stubborn species found themselves conceding to his straightforward nature. They found that, while sometimes uncomfortable, his blunt honesty had a way of cutting through their tangled web of politics and leading them to real solutions. It wasn't all smooth sailing, though. There were still factions and individuals who held tightly to their old methods, unwilling to relinquish the power they had accumulated over centuries of manipulation and bureaucracy. The Rakai, though intrigued, grew wary of how human diplomacy might shake up the established order. The Myrixians, a mysterious species known for their silent, calculating nature, refused to accept any suggestion that diplomacy could be sped up, viewing human tactics as crude and potentially dangerous. But even the most steadfast opponents of humanity's methods found themselves confronted with an undeniable truth: human results were undeniable. Soon, a situation arose that would test humanity's diplomatic prowess in a new way. A new threat emerged on the fringes of the galaxy, a fleet of unknown origin, moving through uncharted space, annihilating anything in its path. Initial attempts to communicate failed. Attempts by the Aristarch, the peaceful Nithans, and even the intellectual Myrixians had all been met with silence, followed by violence. The fleets of the Galactic Council were mobilized, but it seemed they would be no match for this mysterious enemy. The Council turned to the humans. Despite the fear and skepticism, it was clear that the direct, practical approach they had shown during the summit might be needed once more. The question was simple: could humanity's diplomacy work when the stakes were this high? Ambassador Wells was called in again, this time not as a negotiator for trade agreements, but as a problem solver for the survival of the galaxy itself. His response was as clear as ever: we don't talk to enemies who destroy worlds. We find out who they are, what they want, and we either show them why it's in their best interest to talk, or we make sure they understand the consequences of refusing. The council was on edge. It was one thing to challenge established methods in peaceful settings, but this was war. Wells didn't hesitate. He gathered a small team of human experts, military tacticians, strategists, most importantly, communications specialists. Their mission was to track down the mysterious fleet and find a way to communicate with them, rather than try to destroy the threat outright. Wells proposed that they work to understand the enemy's motives first, appealing to their logic, if nothing else. The fleet was located on the edge of a dead system, a region of space where few dared venture. Human scouts were the first to intercept them, making contact through direct communication signals. No diplomatic courtesies, no formality. The message was blunt: we are humans. We know you're here. If you want to destroy us, we'll fight. If you want to talk, we're listening. After hours of tense silence, a response came, not in words, but in a visual transmission of patterns, geometrical in nature. It was clear that the fleet was not human, nor any species the council recognized. They were something entirely new, an alien intelligence that communicated through symbols and motion. Rather than continuing with endless back-and-forth analysis, Wells insisted on simplicity. We understand you are not here to negotiate or to make peace. If you are here to destroy us, we will not stand idly by. But if there's a reason, if there's something you want from us, we can make a deal. Wells and his team decoded the patterns, matching them to their own language structure. It was a gamble, a leap of faith in the face of uncertainty. But eventually, after a tense few days, the message became clear. The fleet was not an invasion force at all, but a nomadic species, driven by a desperate need for resources they could no longer find in their dying star system. They had come to the galactic fringe to salvage what they could, but had no means of communication, no way of understanding the politics of the galaxy. In exchange for basic resources, food, and technology to repair their ships, the fleet agreed to cease its attacks and allow peaceful negotiations. Humanity, through a combination of diplomacy and practical action, had avoided a war that would have ravaged the galaxy. The Council, amazed by the results, had no choice but to concede. Humanity's approach to diplomacy had not only saved the day, it had redefined how peace could be achieved. No longer was diplomacy just about endless speeches and formalities. It was about action, clarity, and pragmatism. It was about getting things done. And from that day forward, diplomacy, human style, became the model. As long as humanity was part of the Galactic Council, peace would no longer be just a lofty ideal, it would be a tangible reality, forged through hard work, direct action, and a refusal to back down when it mattered most. As the years passed, the galactic political landscape began to transform in ways no one could have predicted. Humanity's unorthodox approach to diplomacy continued to make waves across the galaxy, and soon other species started to adopt their methods, albeit in modified forms. The Council became more streamlined, less bogged down by the endless debates and bureaucratic red tape that had once defined it. The Tralexians, initially skeptical, became some of the staunchest allies of humanity in diplomatic efforts. Though they still favored their calculated, logical approach, they began to appreciate the human knack for cutting to the heart of the matter. Meanwhile, the Aristarch, known for their artistic grandeur and cultural rituals, slowly began to incorporate more direct methods into their negotiations, although they never quite shed their penchant for grand ceremonies. Even the Rakai, who had once been the most opposed to humanity's rough-edged style of diplomacy, found themselves in awe of the results. They had, after all, always respected strength and efficiency, and humanity's ability to make things happen quickly, without all the usual posturing, earned them grudging respect. The most significant shift, however, came from the Myrixians. This mysterious species, with their cryptic ways and aversion to anything resembling human chaos, had always been the most difficult to sway. They prided themselves on their calm, stoic demeanor, communicating only when necessary, and avoiding any semblance of emotional expression. However, after the crisis with the mysterious fleet, the Myrixians came to a realization. They had never truly understood humanity's need to connect, to communicate, to act in the face of adversity. But after the fleet incident, and the undeniable success of the humans' blunt, direct negotiations, the Myrixians began to experiment with humanity's diplomatic methods in their own way. The Myrixian ambassador to the council, a silent figure known only as Vaffer, began holding informal meetings with human representatives, learning to trust their approach. At first, Vaffer remained reserved, cautious, and unemotional, but the humans weren't intimidated by this stoicism. They simply treated him as they would anyone else, directly and without pretension. One day, Vaffer surprised everyone by initiating a discussion with Ambassador Wells about a potentially volatile situation. In the outer reaches of the galaxy, a neutral system was at risk of falling into the hands of a rogue faction only that had been stirring up trouble for years. The council had hesitated to intervene, unsure how to approach the conflict without escalating tensions. Vaffer approached the humans with an offer. "I believe a direct approach is necessary," he said, using human words with precision. "Your methods may be the most effective solution." It was an unexpected momentum that marked a true turning point for galactic diplomacy. The Myrixians, once the most aloof and cryptic of species, were now actively engaging in direct negotiations, learning from humanity's no-nonsense style. Ambassador Wells grinned, his eyes reflecting the satisfaction of knowing that their diplomacy had not only worked in the past, but was now becoming the model for the future. "We'll be there, Vaffer. Let's get this done. No speeches, just action." This partnership, built on mutual respect and a shared commitment to results, soon became the cornerstone of the Galactic Council's new framework. Human diplomats, now trusted across the galaxy, were dispatched to mediate disputes, broker peace treaties, and de-escalate potential conflicts before they could spiral into violence. As humanity's role in the galaxy expanded, they became known not just for their strength, but for their ability to forge practical solutions. While their methods may have been unconventional, they were undeniably effective. What was once considered human-style diplomacy was now known simply as galactic diplomacy. HFY negotiations were done when the stakes were high, and no one could afford to waste time. In the years that followed, a peaceful period descended over the galaxy. The Council grew stronger, with more species signing on to humanity's call for efficiency and tangible solutions. The rogue faction threatening the neutral system was swiftly neutralized, not with force, but through clever strategy and unrelenting pressure. A perfect example of what the human diplomat had come to be known for. But even as the galaxy enjoyed this newfound peace, human diplomats were not content to rest on their laurels. They knew that, in a universe as vast and unpredictable as this one, challenges would never cease. There would always be new threats, new problems, new conflicts to resolve. And humanity, true to their nature, would always be there to meet those challenges head-on, with the same directness and resolve that had made their diplomacy legendary. Ambassador Wells, now a revered figure, addressed a gathering of young human diplomats in the hall of the new human embassy on the central hub of the council. His speech was short, as it always had been, but it carried weight. "The galaxy doesn't need more words," he said, his voice steady. "It needs action. It needs results. We've proven that it's possible to build a better future, one where diplomacy isn't just a game of politics, but a force for real change. And as long as humanity stands, that's what we'll keep doing." The room erupted in applause, not just from the humans present, but from the ambassadors of other species who had come to witness the next generation of human diplomats. They had seen what humanity could do, and in that moment, they knew peace in the galaxy was not just a lofty goal, it was a reality, one that humanity had helped to build. Through diplomacy, human style,